Timing. Look who showed up.
Oh, look at you, cutie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unfiltered Vet Discussions. My name is Kelly. I am being joined by Peter and his friend, and David and Beth. Welcome today. We love having you here. We have the royal wave for you. So the usual plug is, we are on social media, so come follow us, come like us, come join us, and then you get all the latest updates. We are on a social media near you, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, um, X, and TikTok.
MySpace?
No, we're not on MySpace.
I don't
That
even think
one,
that's in
that
existence
platform is
anymore.
no longer supported. Um, Please upgrade soon to a new platform near you. We're also on the podcast platforms, Google, Apple, um,
Spotify.
Spotify.
Spotify. Yeah.
Yep, those are the big ones. So come find us there. Today's topic is what's going on lately. And we asked our world traveler, Peter, because he has been world traveling and getting on and off airplanes, like, what has he been seeing? And then we just started having some really great conversations. So we decided to push the record button so you all can join the conversation with us. So, Peter, what have you been seeing and where did you go that made Beth and I really, really insanely jealous?
I know I am.
Right?
So most of June was spent in airports and other things. Half of it for vacation and about a week of it for work. Um, I did two bucket list things on one trip, and the first one was we flew to London, rented a car. Yes, I drove on the opposite side of the street. Not the wrong side, it's the opposite side.
Oh, you can't say wrong. They get offended.
No, it's not. It's not the wrong. For them, it's right, and for us, it's left. So, and drove from London Heathrow to Thirsk, UK, which is up in the Dales. It's about 3 hours north of London. And Thirsk, Thirsk, is where the hospital that James Herriot um, practiced. That was not his real name, that was his pseudonym. And there is a museum of the physical plant. And they actually have some of the studio sets that they used for the filming of the TV show, the first TV show. And so, as somebody who grew up at the time when All Creatures Great and Small was actually released before Beth was born, um, it was really, really a bucket list event. And we took some time. The town is just a real small community. The hospital is about 2 blocks off city center, and it was just a throwback. And they kind of left it feeling a lot like it was. Um, it would never make handicap regulations in California because you couldn't really basically get a wheelchair through the aisleways. And they had, it was just for me, and I think my wife picked this up, just kind of very, okay, I've come full circle now.
Yeah.
And it's worth the trip. Has it been a little bit commercialized? Yes, but what hasn't? And so that was part of the trip we made. We then continued up through the Dales, and it's like, oh, this is what I dreamed of when I was 15, being a
Mhm.
mixed animal practitioner and driving and seeing sheep and cows, and that's all you see in that part of the UK. And then up into Scotland, and we stayed at castles, and we stayed at monasteries, and we stayed at all sorts of coach houses where they would drive up their horses and everything and tie up for the night. And um, did Loch Ness looking for the monster. Didn't see
Nice.
him or her. Sorry, it's a her. But it's beautiful up there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go and we went and you can get 12 days of sunshine, which is what we got, that was a freaking miracle. We
Yeah.
dressed and had everything ready for cold and wet, and we got beautiful weather.
Nice.
We went to Loch Lomond, and sang a little bit of, back the Loch Lomond song, which I can't remember at the moment. We then um, Scotland, Edinburgh had Greyfriars Bobby, and if you really want a tearjerker movie from Disney back in the 60s and in the wonderful world of Disney, watch Greyfriars Bobby, and of course Sharon started to cry. Um, and then we came back to the Lake Country of the UK and stopped at the Beatrix Potter
Oh yeah.
Museum
Ah, cool.
and spent a lot of money picking up Peter Rabbit stuff. And I was not named after Peter Rabbit, for those of you who are wondering. Although I can't ask my parents, I don't think I was named after Peter Rabbit. But it was really just pretty cool to see the stuff that was there and the memories that were there in the story, because I didn't know Beatrix Potter from Harry Potter,
Mhm.
and I don't think they're related either. So that was cool for Sharon. And then we came back and went through Liverpool and did a little bit of Beatles stuff. And then the second part of the bucket list was we went to Manchester and saw Bruce Springsteen start his world tour in Manchester. Um, and this is when he started to have a little bit of his political approach to what's going on in the U.S. And that was really cool that was the first time I've seen him outside of the U.S. Probably about the 60th time I've seen him, but it was just we based
Wow.
the trip around the opportunity to go to the UK. And on the way back, we stopped in Birmingham, and a friend of mine is a veterinarian consultant, born in Santander, Spain, living with his significant other and three children in Birmingham. She is an equine veterinarian. He is a Spanish English speaking consultant and veterinarian. His name is Ignacio Merida. Nacho, I'm giving you a call out. We call him Nacho. And David, have you met Nacho?
I did at VMX. Yeah.
Okay. So we stopped and had lunch with Nacho, and we were just talking about the nature of veterinary business in the UK, which is 65% corporate owned, and the challenges that they're having. And he does relief work, and he was talking about the challenges that he has as a relief doctor in terms of standards of care and patient costs and the challenges that he deals with. And so and then we went and took the airport and flew home. So it was really kind of a good bucket list vacation. And I would advocate, even though today's talk isn't really going to be about life balance and life integration, but don't wait till you get to my age to have your bucket list opportunities because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And if you got things that you want to do, now's the time to do them.
Well, today could be about bucket lists.
We could
I mean,
completely,
was the
we could,
Springsteen in a stadium or is it a concert hall?
it was
At Old Trafford?
it was not at Old Trafford. It was at the Co-op, which is only a year old. It seats 24,000 people. It is
Oh,
the
nice.
newest arena in the UK. So it was indoors because most of the rest of the tour was going to be in football stadiums. They played Liverpool and Ainsley. Is that the stadium that's in Liverpool? That
Yeah, I should
Barnsley,
know.
Ainsley, something
Yeah.
like that. But the thought of dealing with 80,000 people uh, did not, and and most of the good seats were standing room because that's how they do things these days in Europe.
Yeah.
So we wanted an arena seating, and it was really cool. And they don't do this in the U.S. They gave you the option of buying tickets and include a hotel room in it. So
Oh,
when we
that's
bought
cool.
the tickets, we actually got one night of hotel included with the ticket price. And the hotel was very convenient, very nice. It was a very eclectic Marriott called Moxie. And it was very close to public transport, so we could take public transport to the show and not have to deal with taxis and Ubers and cars and everything else. And the unfortunate thing, or fortunate thing, is that Manchester City football stadium is right next to the co-op, and there was a
Okay.
football game going on at the same time as the concert And of course, everybody gets out at the same time.
Yeah, there's probably a lot happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really a great cultural experience. And David, for somebody like yourself who is a football fan, for those of you who are American, that is soccer, football fan, to go and just drive around the UK and go to football stadiums. I mean, there are two quality teams in Liverpool. There are two
Yeah.
in Manchester, and then you've got some of the lower division teams all around. And then you go up to Scotland and see the teams that are up there as well. You could have a soccer vacation. Not sure how your football vacation. I'm not sure how excited your wife would be about it, but it
The
really,
boys and I are.
yes. It's
We
like
talk about it a lot.
I did 6 baseball games in 5 days, and that was not a spouse trip. So
Yeah.
anyhow, bucket list. Maybe we pivot. You want to pivot to bucket lists? We can pivot to bucket lists.
Yeah, we could do a short one on bucket lists because both of you mentioned that James Harriet was on your list as well.
Yes, I grew up reading those books, and he was absolutely part of the reason I'm a veterinarian. So it is on my list to make it there. And I also feel very strongly that people should travel more than they do. I think it gives you such a nice perspective on the
Yeah.
world and how other people live. And I think it just makes you a more compassionate and kind human to just see other people and meet people. I like to say it's hard to hate people up close. So I think it gives you a lot more perspective. And there's just so much of the world to see. So I'm really big into travel. I am not a huge football fan. However, I have been to a football game when I was in Ecuador once,
Oh, nice.
and that was really cool because that like energy was
Yeah,
really a very fun experience to be a part of.
it is. It's a different way to sport for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. Although I'm starting to see it bleed in. I don't watch American football, but the highlights now starting to hear a little chanting, some occasional drums. It is bleeding into some of the other sports. That passion or expression of the passion. The passion's there, but the expression of it is neat for
Well, we see a
sure.
lot of it in LA, and I know we're going to get a little bit on the football tangent because of the
Oh yeah.
competition with the Mexican teams coming up and playing. And right now, the World Cup, Club World Cup is being
Club World,
played
World
up
Cup.
in LA.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I've watched the women's national team a couple of times because they trained up in the Los Angeles area. But I stepped on Kelly, who wanted to talk about her James Harriet bucket list too.
No, I mean, that's fine. You did it. It was just the flow of conversation. I mean, I'm like Beth. I read James Harriet. I still read James Harriet. I have the books in hardback because that's the only proper way in my mind to read James Harriet is in physical paper, in hardback, and
I agree.
right, and just reverence and have the moment with the story and so I too want to go. I do remember, and maybe they covered this, Peter, in the little bit I read, is the town got actually pretty overwhelmed with people trying to come and see James Harriet and his daughter, especially in his last years of his life. And they're like, you guys just kind of have to respect the family and respect the space and all of that. And people forget, he was a living human being too, and where these stories came from and whatnot. But what also encompassed it is he not only captures the story of the animals, he captures the story of the time, going to
Yeah.
war and the change and what that meant to his family and how he worked his way through that. I'm just really totally a gifted writer. So yes, I would love to go and just honor his memory and kind of see where the story took place because nobody does England like England or the Moors. I mean, we just don't do that here in the United States. Like, okay, we have a cobbled street, but like their cobbled street kicks our butt. Like it's just not the same, right? In the feel of it. But I think bucket lists are important because, like Peter, you're saying, if you don't go, you don't go. One of my 18-year-olds, and I think I brought this up, that I kind of mentor, he said lately to me, Kelly, one day or day one. And I think I brought this up last time. And Peter, this just exemplifies that. Like you can say one day I will go fill in the blank to where you want to go, or day one is today, I start planning it. Like David, you've been to some amazing places in your life and made it happen and brought your kids and your family. I'm not sure Antarctica's on my list to go, but I love seeing your photos and seeing
It's
what
on mine. I'd
you
go
did.
there.
You want to go there? Well, hit
Yeah.
up David. He's got all the hot travel
Been
tips.
there 3 times.
Wow, that's amazing. Well,
Twice for work,
yeah.
doing penguin research. But, you know, you talk about one day or day one, and when I had the opportunity to go, it's a long way away. And I was like, do I really want to do it? And part of the decision, which I think applies for bucket lists, I thought in the future, do I want to say I did or do I want to say I could have?
Mm.
I had the opportunity to, no, and I was like, no, I want to say I did. And so I took a leap and it was great. All of my adventures have been on that same, yeah, let's give it a shot. And I think, have it first, making a list. What is it you'd really like to do? Do people set aside time? And, we're doing a little of this, but I think people are so, these days, my perspective, not good at being alone. You sit and you wait for the dentist. What do? We whip out the phone. We distract ourselves. Going for a walk. We put on headphones. We distract ourselves. We're not good sitting down by myself, just free thinking and saying, oh, this is what I'd like to do, or build a bucket list, be quiet. I think that perpetual distraction, waiting for food to come in the restaurant, we lose that quiet time. And I see that in my boys. They don't know how to be alone with themselves. That becoming an acquired skill. And, you know, if you're going to build a bucket list, you need some time to think about it and not just default checklist.
Mm.
Right,
There
right.
are books you can buy that will give you a bucket list, but I think you need to make your own.
I do too, because mine is
Agreed.
definitely not yours, because
Yeah.
Antarctica is not even on that list, right? It's in, and it's interesting. So when I've been overseas, and you guys have been overseas, and I want to, did you guys get this question a lot? Because I did, especially in Australia. And I know Peter, you've been down there. I got asked a lot, what is the passport ratio to population in the United States? Like how many Americans own passports? And it
It's a
was
good question.
That is a good question. I feel like it's not a
I
lot.
think it's low.
it's very small. And the Australians like whipped off the stat, like, blah, and they're just like, but ours is this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's much right here. Like getting like in Minnesota, very, very long state, just kind of like other states like California. But northern Minnesotans come to Minneapolis for a big adventure. Like that's their stretching past their comfort zone.
Well, I
Minneapolis.
Googled it.
I was just
48%.
Googling it.
Is it
48%.
48%?
But it's up. In 1990, only 5% of Americans had a passport.
Wow.
Wow,
Wow.
that's a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we're trying to get out of here. Um,
I mean, can you blame us?
But it's still, and also it's being required more, like airplane
That's
travel,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's true.
The simplicity.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so,
Although, my brother who works internationally, for when he was younger, his backpack has a Canadian flag on it.
yeah, I don't blame them.
So
Yeah.
yeah, by the
international
way,
bucket
Australia,
list.
55% of Australians have a passport. So it's not that much different.
Well, that's not that
No,
bad.
Yeah. But that's a big jump for us.
Yes.
Yeah, that is.
but do we use it? Like, I think the Australians are like, we go someplace all the time. Where do you go?
It's interesting because when Brooke was there, she looked at going skiing in Japan. It's like, we
Yeah,
don't look to go skiing in Japan. We look to go skiing in Colorado. Now, there
Right.
are people who will go skiing in Canada, but how many people go to the Alps? So we are a little bit jingoistic in the fact that some of the people in the US want to go to all 50 states at some point in time. And some people never leave their own state.
No.
Yeah. And we do have such a breadth within the US, so many different ecozones, between the mountains to the rivers, the streams, the arid parts and the humid parts, the species diversity. And you go to Colorado, you have the monoculture of aspens. And then you come back east and the diversity of deciduous and coniferous trees. It's you can entertain yourself completely within East Coast, West Coast, let alone see all of that on the different continents.
If
It's
One of
you don't
a
have your
bucket list item for me actually is all of the national parks.
yeah, with an RV and just motoring around or just kind of
No,
going camping.
we've started this process. So
Oh,
I think we're up to like 12, which is not bad, but there's 63, so there's still a lot left. But we've been doing like trips where we'll go to a city or a town that's near a national park for like a long weekend, and then we'll explore that city and then also go to
go to the
that
park.
national park, which
do
has
That's a great
been
you
idea.
have
fun.
the passport book for national parks?
I do.
Same here.
I think we
Sure
got
do.
them for the boys.
They're
Yeah,
really fun,
I might
actually.
have to.
It is fun. Yeah.
And you can look back and see the dates that you've been there or repeat been there. And it's inexpensive. I mean, the book's like $6 and then you go look for it. But yeah, it proves that you're there. It's a great marketing idea from the national parks perspective, because then you're kind of like, well, what's the next park I can go to, or where's
Mhm.
the stamp, or where can I learn about this kind of little sidebar, but still a national park thing on the
Yeah,
way.
I like that.
Yeah, so I agree, it's really great. I did hear Glacier National Park just opened up their Follow the Sun Road. It had 80 feet of
Yes.
snow on it this year.
Yes. I've read a little bit about that one is so seasonal because it's just kind of a remote, like, and it's like impossible to maintain.
It's beautiful. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful. Somehow they have porta potties at the top, but it's
Nice.
I know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Um no, I think
So what's the next trip then? Where are y'all heading next?
I have a good one. So my son loves Canada. He's 15. And so for several years, he's been saying he wants to go to Canada in the fall. So this year in September, we have booked a Canadian train trip where we are leaving out of Vancouver and then
Oh, you're going that.
using the
Yeah.
train coming
East.
east and hitting a couple of the national parks on the Canada side. And I am so freaking excited about this trip. I cannot wait.
I am
how long
jealous. That's on my list is Rocky Mountain Rail from
Yes.
Toronto to
Yes. And
Vancouver,
that's
Banff.
what it is.
Yeah.
And we go from, but we're going from west to
West
east.
to east. I
And
like
then we're
that
hitting
idea.
like Lake Louise and Rocky Mountain National Park and like all of that
Yeah.
beautiful space up there and doing some hiking and some day trips like off of the train. So I'm really pumped. I think it's going to be exciting. It's like the end of September, so that's supposed to be a
That's
really
gonna
good
be
time for the
beautiful.
fall colors in
Yeah.
Canada. So
Yeah, when
Don't miss
Susan
the
and I got
opportunity.
married, that was the honeymoon idea I threw out was
ooh,
let's take the Rocky Mountain Rail.
yeah.
It got axed, but
Mm,
it still stayed on the list.
yeah.
Don't miss the opportunity to stop in Moose Jaw as you go across Saskatchewan.
Okay. I'll have to add that. Is that a little town? What is that?
It's a little town of about 25,000 people that is west of Regina, which is the airport in Saskatchewan. Just there are two airports in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon and Regina, but Moose Jaw is just a little. It's a pit stop along that Canada One and the train road along there that I was up doing a speaking engagement, and the hotel was attached to the casino. The sand was still on the street from the ice that had just started to melt, and the winds whip across, and you can see, I think you can see the northern lights because it's so flat. You can watch, they joke that you can watch the dogs run for 2 weeks. Um, but that's how that part of Manitoba, Saskatchewan will be a relatively flat part of your trip when it comes down
Yeah,
to it.
Okay, cool.
Lots
that's
of
cool.
cows.
Yeah, nice.
Sort of like
That'll be a fun adventure.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
for you.
excited. Yeah.
I'd like to do that on the Orient Express,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the train. Sharon loves trains. We're looking at doing a Alps
I was
train
going to
ride at
ask,
some point.
Ooh,
anybody done
yeah.
the Alps train? Because that looks
I haven't.
beautiful and just you get to see countryside you normally can't figure out how to get there, right? And you don't have to drive and you actually get served food, which is kind of nice. But the Alps one looks really nice. So a lot less expensive some years to go skiing in the Alps, Peter, than it is in Colorado, even with airfare. Um, so that's always an option too if you're into downhill skiing. But no, the Orient Express looks very intriguing, following the Silk Road. I've looked at that one too. Mhm. All these
I
possibilities, right?
yeah, David knows that I'm going back to Africa next year. We were there 2 years
Mhm.
ago for Brooke's graduation, but we're going back next year as well. So there's still so much of Africa to see
Yeah.
um, that is just take advantage of these things when you can because you'd never know when it's going to become impossible for all sorts of reasons, some of which are political and other of which are safety. So
Right.
And health can interfere. Gotta act
yeah,
on it while you got your health, for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. Who needs wealth? We just need health.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You
Put
can't
it on
take
a
it with
credit
you
card.
when you're gone. You might as well use it to have life experiences.
And good
That's what my
memory,
dad used
right?
to say. My dad used to say, "We're spending our children's inheritance."
Yeah.
They can
So
earn their own. That's
abso-freaking-lutely.
how I
Trips.
feel.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got that from Dr. Goebel. Said, oh, we're going on another ski trip. Well, you guys don't ski. No, spend kids' inheritance. I'm like, ah, I'm using that.
Ah, that's
And so the
hilarious.
No.
boys now know. They're like, Papa, don't go on too many ski trips. I'm like, no.
Well, we're
You
thinking
know,
about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
this goes. We can segue this back to an interesting conversation we had before the recording regarding hospital sales and the sellers who will get after capital gains a significant amount of cash. Are they using it intelligently and taking the advantage of the fact that they don't have an anchor to hold them down? And maybe they didn't travel because they were spending too much time working in their practices and not enough time working on their practices. So, David, when you talk to sellers, are you making sure that they're thinking about how, or do you have financial planners who work with them to make sure that they start to think about taking advantage of the time and the money that they have and having some fun?
Yeah.
Because if you're selling and you don't have fun, then you might as well continue practicing.
Yeah, what's the point then?
I mean, that's the whole do you have a plan part of the discussion. Unfortunately, most of the folks that work with us they may not have the plan, but they have financial planners. They're getting some advice. They're doing some tax planning. I don't always stay in touch with all of the clients whose practices we've sold, but there are definitely many that send me updates and they got the big RV and they run it for 10 years around the country and but they got a plan and a list of things they're doing and
Nice.
it's fun to get those updates. I hear anecdotally all too often folks that sell but they did wait too long and then they had this plan and then health issues intervene and now they're not able to do anything um, and
We've
it,
got to get one of the news magazines to do a column entitled Life After DVM
yeah.
because it really might motivate some people to look at the things that they can do. And there have been so many sellers over the last few years who have probably some great stories to tell. I mean, there are a lot of veterinary golfers and this reflects the fact that the most of the sellers in the last 5 to 10 years have been males over the age of 65. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, David.
Not all, about half. Well, in the last 10 years, probably a little more than half, but about half of the folks we're working with currently are male and half are female. So we have a lot of female practice owners hitting that certain age. But you raise a great question. And maybe we throw this out to vet partners as a task force because both Simmons, we have a lot databases for a lot of sellers, and our colleagues, and I have good relationships with some of our competitors. I bet we could build a database of ex owners that a task force could send a questionnaire to, even if it's 4 or 5 questions, and just what have you done since? What did you learn? There's a article or book, at least a series of stuff.
There's a
So
Simmons
anyone
podcast.
listening, if you're really into doing that kind of research, contact me. Let's get something started. That I don't have the time to do it, but I have
Yeah.
access to the data.
Mm.
And I may have people who have the time to do it. We can talk about that offline because it feeds into another project that I'm thinking about doing. But life after DVM is really about helping others recognize the dreams that they can have by giving them an idea of how other people have dreamed. And that may be
Yeah,
going and playing um, the old course in Scotland if they play golf. It may be Stan Creighton, who was NVA's original CEO, had a
his
yacht,
ship.
a
Yeah,
ship. Yeah, and so it's I joke that if I had ever hit the lottery that I would buy a minor league baseball team because I enjoy baseball and I would just love to be able to go and hang out on the field and dream the dreams that I never was going to able to play because the Yankees had a center fielder back in the 60s, um, 70s actually. So yeah, but these are the types of things. And David, that whole list is a list of teachers for the next generation as
yeah,
well on how to be successful.
Mm.
yeah,
I think we've gone off on
sure.
a tangent, but it's been
Yeah, that
fun.
would be,
But that
I
was a
really
good
feel
one.
like that could be interesting and impactful, even for people like
Resourceful.
me that aren't ready to retire yet, but because I'm sure they would have some helpful advice or stories that might help my generation either shift gears and adjust their plan to be better prepared, or maybe even realize they should be taking advantage of where they're at right now and doing more things now and not waiting until they retire. So I think that that would be very interesting. I would
And it could
definitely read it.
could encourage ownership.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hey, this is what this enabled. It was worth the work.
Mhm.
We should
Yeah.
So,
talk about this, David, because I think it'd be interesting to have a panel of some of your clients and an audience of young prospective entrepreneurs. Um,
yeah,
because and we'll talk about this another time is I'm all about trying to create legacy hospitals now where the sellers are the associates, excuse me, the owners are selling to their associates,
yeah,
and I
Yes.
think that's the generation I want to focus on.
I would love to have a podcast about that and talk about more people wanting to own because that is my biggest fear is me getting to the point where I don't want to be an owner anymore and being super limited in what my options are. And what
hmm
I want to do is encourage my younger associates to buy in and then have it be sort of a rolling ownership of people buying in and it continues to go, which I think is what you're talking about, but I'm not as knowledgeable on the ins and outs of that as you guys would be. But that's where
yeah,
my brain goes, is that I want to be able to keep mine as a privately owned hospital. That's one of the things that I feel really strongly about. And I want to be able to have opportunities for that. And I think more younger veterinarians need to be encouraged and be brave enough to want to own. So hearing positive stories of owners and life after ownership might be really helpful to the younger generation of veterinarians.
yeah. For
I,
all the associates that are listening, there is a good website, veterinaryownrshipadvocates.com. Has a lot of good resources. and I do recommend it. Just to put in a plug.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. No, but it's Kelly, put the topic for the future, the 75% club,
Okay.
because 75% of hospitals are privately owned. So what we're trying to do is keep that percentage at 75% or actually grow by encouraging Beth to find a way to sell to her associates without compromising her earning capacity.
Right.
But what options are out there when you're in a bidding war with
Yeah.
private equity? And there are options, and they
Mhm.
will take a little bit of work from the seller to get there. But David and I can probably give you some ideas and have this conversation. So the 75% club, um, that's the community that we should all be a part of.
Yeah.
Yes. I would love to talk about that because that will absolutely help me personally. That
That's good.
conversation
Yeah,
with you
but it
guys.
will also help the 100,000, well, excuse me, the 65,000 veterinarians that don't own a hospital.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Since there are 100 and some odd thousand veterinarians and 35,000 practices, veterinary hospitals out there, thereabouts.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So,
Nice
yep,
discussion today.
right. So, Kelly, where's your next bucket list visit?
Uh, Lifetime wise, I want to go into space, but that's not the next one. But hence the
Any
photo.
particular space? You don't have enough room?
Yeah, exactly. I would like to be on a spaceship that has anti-gravity, please, not on a rocket. And I'd like to be so smooth, I don't even know that I'm off the surface of the planet, right?
Cool.
It's just that smooth. And hopefully in my lifetime that will happen. That's the long-term goal. I have a lot of places I want to go see. Like I need to go see the northern side of Iceland. I haven't seen the northern side of Iceland. There's whole bunches of Europe that are just hidden little gems that, I want
Yeah.
to go and travel and see in little pieces. I would like to try to get my mom back overseas. She's 84. She was just navigated Amsterdam and went down the river on one of those long boats.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But have a moment with her before I can't have a moment with her.
Yeah.
Make that mom daughter kind of like, to me, going overseas is memory making. Those are like little nuggets that you hold inside yourself that you look back to of the memories that you've made. I mean, I've stood on the Great Wall of China. I'm not sure I would go back right now because of political reasons and just all of that. But it's something that I can always hold dear to me. So, like anybody listening, when you go travel, and something else too with bucket lists is everybody's like, well, I need to save up money and I need to do this. I'm like, you just need to figure out how to do it. Like, you may go and live off of peanut butter and granola bars. Done that, been there, just saying. Japan was a little confused about the peanut butter jar in my luggage, but you make it happen, right? Like, you figure out like how to spread out the money so you can go have the experiences. But don't wait until you have the ideal perfect situation, or you'll miss like going to China and sitting on the Great Wall because you can't go anymore.
Yeah.
That's the
Good.
piece I'm gonna leave with people, is just figure it out. Like, there's a lot of ramen noodle stands around the world. You can get there, right? And it's actually better ramen than ours.
Way better.
Way better.
Yeah.
Like anything
So
can
if you
be ours.
if you don't have a bucket list, start one.
Yes,
If you have one, and as you start yours, then start acting on it. That's the takeaway.
Yeah.
that's a good.
And involve some family or friends. Not all of it. Some of it might be just you,
And
but
put your fair watch on.
do it.
Fair
Yeah.
watches are free, and all of a sudden you'll find fair that dips and just go, wow, let's go to England for 4 days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's $300 round trip. Let's go.
It's so much more affordable than I think people think it is
Mhm.
because I think travel, especially overseas, is like this big trip to people. But my sister moved overseas like 3 years ago. So my husband and I and my son have been like, well, now I guess we're going to Europe a lot because I'm not going to not see her. And I have this app called Going, and that app tracks fares and will notify you when they drop and will tell you when it's the best time to go to certain places. So, like, we went like 2 months ago, very last minute trip over to Madrid and got plane tickets for like around $500 for my husband and I to go for a long weekend and found a hotel
Nice.
that was less than $200 a night. Like it is affordable if you put some work into it, and I think you can totally do it more than you think you can.
That's
Credit
cool.
cards with points.
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
you're going to be spending money anyway. Might like have a Marriott card. Why not get you points, right? So
So
Well,
make a bucket list. That's the
make a bucket
takeaway.
list.
That's the
Peter,
takeaway.
can you
Bob,
wrap
Make
Bob,
the
us up?
list.
yeah, the bottom line is one of my favorite plays is Man of La Mancha. To dream the impossible dream. Well, every dream is possible, and all you have to do is take the dream to reality and then just keep adding to it. So don't stop dreaming and don't let people tell you you can't, because that's a perfect reason to do it. When somebody
Yeah.
tells you you can't do it, just do it.
Mhm.
Well
Thank you.
said.
And with that, we will say adieu. Thank you for joining us today on Unfiltered Vet Discussions, and we look forward to you joining us next time.